Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we've got a talk today. It's been a while since we've done some speculation, but it looks like Creative Assembly might have dropped a little hint. You see, in yesterday's blog regarding all the Immortal Empire's race updates, we did have some stuff revolving around Norsca, where they outright confirmed that this is not the rework for Norsca, that will come later on. But there seems to be something which has had a lot of people asking. You see, they mention in the capital targets that the Kurgan hordes have never taken Wage In, but perhaps they only lacked a unifying iron fist. So, many people are now saying, well, what if that is a Kurgan character that we'll get for Norsca in the future, when we get a whole Tribes of the North situation, because we're expecting characters that aren't really Norscan for Norsca. Now, before anything, we need to talk about one specific thing. You see, obviously we are aware that Azazel starts there in Realms of Chaos, so they could be mentioning that, given the fact that we know how this vassal system works with the Norscan factions and the Warriors of Chaos. Maybe there's another character there during Immortal Empires. It's very, very much possible considering the areas. You know, start positions are always a bit weird and, you know, CA don't really tell us anything until announcements and yeah. So your guess is as good as mine, but I know that some people wanted to talk about Kurgans, so let's talk about Kurgans because it is still possible that we'll see a DLC with a Kurgan character. The big question is, could there be a Kurgan focused DLC for Norsca? And really, yes. The thing is that the Kurgans themselves would be counted more like a sub-faction, and sub-factions are completely possible. In fact, it kind of looks like we're getting sub-factions in a sense for the Champions of Chaos DLC, so it just adds in a new flavor, some new units and all that, and, well, maybe it is entirely possible. You see, the Kurgans themselves are not Norscans. They're kind of similar if you don't understand the difference between all the different tribes, but yeah, they're more horseman-oriented. They are a skirmishing faction. They're still pretty brutal in hand-to-hand combat, just like anything else that's been blessed by chaos. But what we know mostly by lore is, think about it in a very similar sense to the Mongols in our very real history. So we can expect some horsemen, some different types of units to just, you know, fill out the roster a little bit. Then we've also got some monsters that are still missing from the Tamukon expansion from Warhammer Fantasy, which could fit quite well considering that, well, you know, Norsca, monsters, you've got that whole cheesy line of we fought monsters and we became them, you know. The problem is that there's not really a lot of known Kurgan characters, mostly because that area of the world didn't really get expanded upon, with the most famous characters being two. Well, technically three. Skulltaker was there, but, you know, he's a demon, so he's likely to join the Khorne monogod roster instead of leading a Kurgan warband. Or at least, I really hope that's the case. But with that being said, let's talk about the two mortals, because they're quite important. I really enjoy them on the tabletop, and it would be cool to see them. I just don't know how this would work, seeing as one of them I always thought was going to be a legendary hero, and the other one, well, fits with the Warriors of Chaos. But let's see. Alright, so the first character we're going to talk about is Krom. See, this guy is an overall badass. He is also known as Krom the Conqueror. He is the herald of Archaon the Everchosen. He's the leader of the Kul tribe, and he is the successor to Asavar Kul, one of the previous Everchosens, and someone who did a lot of damage. We're going to be probably speaking about him in the future when we start going into the whole Warhammer the Old World situation, when Games Workshop, you know, decide to drop info on that. It's been a long time. But Krom the Conqueror is very well known because he's an excellent fighter. Yes, he looks like a bit of a generic Chaos Warrior, but these are the things where characters were introduced and just had that kind of generic look. He was pretty much just a basic hero character in the tabletop, but still very, very cool. In fact, he outright fought against Archaon and impressed the Everchosen so much that he spared his life as long as he served. He also thought that he was going to be the next Everchosen, but happily served Archaon when he was proven wrong. And I actually mean happily. He's a big dude in lore, which got introduced, I believe, around the time of the Storm of Chaos, but also did get mentions throughout then, so from 6th edition onwards, ended up even having quite a long period during the end times too. It's a character that actually is very much well liked, just generally because he's a badass. He's got a cool miniature too. Even though he just looks like a Chaos Warrior, it's the fact that, you know, he carries two weapons, he's also got the shield on him, he's got that awesome hero pose, well, you know, villain pose, better yet said. And, well, generally he's a cool character, but I always imagined him, like I said, as a legendary hero for Archaon. And we know that Creative Assembly want to bring in more legendary heroes. The problem is that we don't know when. But he could be a cool character for Norsca if Norsca ends up being this whole Tribes of the North situation, you know, sub-factions, because he leads the cool. And, yeah, you know, melee character. He's not that interesting unless they make him like an absolute powerhouse in melee. But like I said, my only real problem is he looks kind of generic. So unless they give him a bit of a model update, make him look a bit more special rather than, you know, this is a Chaos Lord, it's not really going to sell too well, is it? But starting around the lands of the cool could be quite interesting, as it would give you a Norscan faction to directly fight against Grand Cafe. And I mean, that could be fun. You know, you've got the mammoths, you've got loads of trolls, you've got loads of things to be able to fight against them. Plus, we'd be expecting more units, and we're not going to talk about missing units here. We're just going to talk about characters. So it would be fun to see a Norscan character taking the fight head on. Plus, after the whole disappointment of Wolfric staying in Norsca, that was just a bit, you know? But like I said, give him a model update, give him a cool voice actor, and we're good to go. He's got enough lore to justify him being a legendary lord, let's be honest. But let's move on to the second possible character, which I know is going to... there's going to be a few comments there. Now, the second character is Tamukan, which many people are expecting for the Warriors of Chaos in the future as a Elseth versus Tamukan DLC. You know, we've all been kind of expecting that. But he is a Kurgan, and we do need to talk about that. He's the son of the Great Kurgan, in fact, one of 4 brothers, which we just have no information on the other brothers. This is the Maggot Lord. He is the Master of Hosts, the Bringer of Desolation. This is a character which had one of... No, I keep saying one of, but it's actually the best supplement that was ever released in the history of Warhammer. I'm not just saying Warhammer Fantasy. I'm saying that the Tamukan book was just the best GW had ever released in the entire history of the franchise. Now, Tamukan is a character that we could expect for Norsca. You see, they could throw us off and just go, no, let's do Tamukan for Norsca in a Kurgan sub-faction, and it could work potentially quite well if we get a really, really cool rework focusing around Norsca. And we get a little bit of overlap, which we're seeing now, where we're getting Chaos Warriors with the Monogod Demons and so on. That was confirmed by CA. So if we get Tamukan for Norsca, but he also gets access to the Chaos Warriors of Nurgle because it fits well with the lore, that could work out quite well, and it introduces some new monsters like the Plague Ogres and all that, which could then be backward transferable to the Warriors of Chaos, or even the Nurgle Demon faction, because again, we know something like this is possible since the Mongols are now going to the vampire counts. It's possible, and he's a very big character. He's very, very unique, considering that, well, he's actually supposed to be just a maggot. But he takes over the bodies and all that, and then we've got, you know, the Toad Dragons, which could fit quite well with Norsca, considering, again, the monster situation. It's something that we can and should take into account. Now, I know, again, people are going to be saying in the comments, no, he should be Warriors of Chaos, he should be Warriors of Chaos. And to be honest, Tamukan can fit anywhere as long as the rework is good. If the Norsca rework is just absolute hot garbage, then no. But, you know, his faction kind of has everything. At certain points you can have demons, at certain points you can have Warriors of Chaos, you can even have some beastmen, I think. It was just one of these things where souping, which is a term on the tabletop, where you mix different factions, was entirely possible. And even if he does become a Norsca DLC, he could still very much do the whole versus Elseth thing, where he's fighting his way through Cafe to then go to the Empire. It's entirely possible, or they could just change the story around a little bit, because at the end of the day, it's CA's IP, and they can move some stuff around as long as GW do approve. But what makes this character so incredibly popular is the fact that, you know, he destroys so much in his path, like Chaos Dwarfs, others, even goes into Cafe for a bit. He just basically just smashes his way through, so it would be a nice campaign to have Tamukan there. Now, we're expecting him versus Elseth, but he can start pretty much anywhere. It would just be kind of fun if he just, like, followed the story a little bit. Because we do get a little bit of the story, it seems, in the whole Champions of Chaos DLC, which makes me think Tamukan's coming soon, because they're doing the whole Sanbaijin thing, and it's like, could this all be hinting up to Tamukan? Because it just makes sense. And yes, there are some other known Kurgans, but they have less lore than Helm Ghost. I am actually not kidding here, they have less lore than him. However, there is a situation that we haven't thought of, is the fact that the Tamukan book was supposed to be one of 4. maybe, because we know that some of them were near completion, the story was completed and all that, maybe Games Workshop are looking to CA and saying, look, maybe you can just take one of these, one of the other 4 great sons. And I wouldn't be opposed to that, but I very much doubt it because none of us know these characters, so we wouldn't really feel hyped if we saw the Khorne one, the Sineshi one. Even I wouldn't be that excited if we saw the Sineshi one or the Xingqian one, because out of the 4, we know Tamukon and we want Tamukon. I mean, there's always that possible situation, and we're just going to have to wait and see. Maybe they just added that little line for fluff flavor. We'll never really know until we wait for a Norsca rework, but I imagine that after Champions of Chaos, we'll have the Chaos Dwarves because, I mean, I'm thinking that most of you at this point will probably go really insane if we don't get the Chaos Dwarves. Not saying anything bad about it, but I see your comments, and I've never seen people ask for something so specific in so long. But Norsca versus Empire, the more I think about it, sounds pretty cool, and even if it introduces, say, for example, the Kurgan as a sub-faction, it's still something. I know there will be chaos fatigue. There will definitely be chaos fatigue. But you guys have to be prepared for a lot of chaos stuff throughout the rest of the franchise because chaos has desperately needed the attention. And I think this might work out quite well. Again, could be very wrong. This is a little bit of speculation. I don't get to do this much and... well, not anymore, and it's just nice to be able to get back to it because I do really like these discussions with you guys. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk and let's have a little bit of fun. I hope you guys are drinking enough water because it's ungodly hot lately.